Hello, and welcome to Fandalorian's breakdown of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Sorry it took so long to get this video out. As you can see, I'm on vacation. Since I already went over most of the things I disliked about Rogue One in part 1 of this try again. So I'm just gonna go over a few of the things that were in Rogue One that I left out of my rewrite, and why I left them out, and then we'll go on with our day. But before I do that, I'd like to point out a try again first. For the first time in this series, I've rewritten an upcoming Disney project. That's right, I've done a Star Wars try again, on a project that hasn't even been released yet. The Disney Plus show Andor. Now I have no idea what this show is going to be about, but since Cassian Andor died at the end of the original Rogue One, it's going to have to take place before Cassian met Jyn Erso, and who wants to see a show about that? No, not in my Star Wars universe. Here, after Cassian gets off of Scarif, he's going to dedicate his life to finding out what happened on Corellia and uncover all the corruption within the Rebel High Council. And I've even made it so Cassian won't have to go it alone. Maybe Bodhi Rourke will show up, and Saw Gerrera can help him in his endeavors. But the main point is, Cassian Andor will be continuing his adventure, and won't be making the same mistake Solo, a Star Wars story, made. By going back in time and rehashing the same story arc that was concluded in the first movie he was in. Now there's a reason for Cassian to have his own TV series. Next, let's talk about the only reason I wanted to do this try again. These two knuckleheads. Chirrut and Baze were hands down the coolest characters in Rogue One. Their backstory is they lived on the planet Moon of Jedha, and were monks to a religious organization called the Guardians of the Whills. The Guardians of the Whills believed and preached about the Force. Basically, they were Jedi without the powers. Although it seems to me, if you're a blind man and can beat a bunch of stormtroopers with a stick, you might be able to use the Force. Lucasfilm should have just pulled the trigger and made them Jedi. They still could have been the Guardians of the Whills, a sect of the Jedi Order that stayed on Jedha to protect ancient Jedi secrets. Rogue One even went so far as to make Chirrut use the Force to make stormtroopers miss him, so he can get to the button he needed to push. No matter what the movie says, these guys were Jedi. They should have just given him the lightsabers. But the biggest changes I made were removing the unnecessary nostalgia. I left in characters like Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, because they were vital to the story. But the movie-going audience didn't need to see Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba doing the exact same thing in this movie as they'd be doing in A New Hope. Speaking of which, I'd like to break down the timeline for you here. These two gentlemen were walking down the street on Jedha, bumped into Jyn Erso, then flew to Tatooine and bumped into Luke Skywalker, and met their demise at the hands of Obi-Wan Kenobi. What a small universe. I also left out R2-D2 and C-3PO. These two being on Yavin 4 kind of made sense, because the Tantive 5 and Leia were on Yavin 4. But in my movie, Leia was on a diplomatic mission before she was pulled in to receive the Death Star transmission. So my audience would have been deprived of this creepy and sad digital version of Carrie Fisher. And since we're on the subject, we left out Grand Moff Tarkin as well. Since Tarkin runs the Death Star, and I don't believe the Death Star reveal should happen until A New Hope, both Tarkin and the Death Star remained out of my movie. And now it's time for me to explain why I left out the best scene in Rogue One, the Darth Vader serial killer scene. This scene is a fanboy's wet dream. I loved every moment of it. But this scene leads to a change in the way I see the original Star Wars. And that can't happen. The problem lies right here. Vader is finished killing every rebel soldier in the hallway, and comes to the Tantive 5 as it departs from the profundity and jets off into hyperspace. We'll forget about the logistics of Vader having to get back to his shuttle, fly to his Star Destroyer, and then begin pursuit. What bothers me is that Vader knows for a fact that the Tantive 5 is carrying the Death Star plans. And that changes the intent of all the dialogue in the beginning of A New Hope. I always took Leia saying we're on a diplomatic mission from Alderaan as a cunning lie from a trained spy. And now after watching Rogue One, I now see that Leia was just a girl caught with her hand in the cookie jar. And when Vader says, we tracked the stolen Death Star plans to this location, and there'll be nothing to stop us next time, his subordinate should have turned and said, what do you mean tracked? We followed them here. In the original Star Wars, if Vader had tracked the Death Star plans and deduced that Leia had them, it would make sense him boarding the Tantive 5 and interrogating the people on board. But if he knew for certain that this ship had the Death Star plans, why didn't he just blow it up? Or board it and just start killing everyone on board? And then use a scanning crew to find the Death Star plans? My main point being that while this scene is probably the coolest scene in Star Wars, it changes the actions, motives, and intentions of the characters in the original Star Wars, and a prequel should always strive not to do that. And so we come to the end of this try again of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I hope you enjoyed it. After this, I need a vacation.